Welcome to the Pretty Powerful Podcast, where powerful women are interviewed every week to share real inspiring stories and incredible insight to help women or anyone break the barriers, be a part of innovation, shatter the glass ceiling, and dominate to the top of their sport, industry, or life's mission. Join us as we celebrate exceptional women and step into our power. And now, here's your host, Angela Gennari.
Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Pretty Powerful Podcast. My name is Angela Gennari, and today I am here with Ashley Kalinauskas. How are you, Ashley?
Doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. So Ashley Kalinauskas is the founder and CEO of Torigen, a biotechnology company helping our furry best friends live longer, healthier lives. Their initial product, VetiVax, is a personalized cancer vaccine that was originally developed to move forward for human clinical studies, but was repositioned to help the millions of dogs, cats, and horses after a cancer diagnosis. Ashley has grown the company from an idea on the scientific benchtop to a company of over 30 employees poised to help grow the animal health industry. This is so amazing. I'm so excited. So first of all, you started this company straight out of grad school, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me how that even happened. Like, you're in grad school and you have this idea. Have you already started kind of planting the seeds for it?
So the lab that I worked in grad school, so I did a really great program where you're, doing your scientific masters, but then also taking business courses at the same time.
Wow.
And working in a lab, the technology that we had was a personalized cancer vaccine. So how you were able to capture the patient-specific mutations and use those as a backbone to help stimulate an immune response against the cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and originally this was meant for humans with prostate cancer. So we had done a ton of research. They had a lot of patents and publications on it. But when you're taking something and you're doing work in a lab, it becomes, well, how do I actually take this to the next level and finally get this to be used in a human? And it just seemed like this daunting obstacle for, it was going to take 10 plus years and $100 million. So instead, we asked, well, can we take this technology and maybe help others with cancer, like our furry friends? So understanding just how many pets get diagnosed with cancer each year, it's one of the biggest problems in veterinary medicine, with over 4 million dogs, 4 million cats are diagnosed. 25% of all dogs will be diagnosed in their lifetime.
Wow.
50% over the age of 10 die from cancer. So,
oh my gosh, I had no idea.
yeah.
Wow. So is the process much different when you're getting like FDA? Do you have to get FDA approval, or how does that work when you're dealing with animals versus humans? I assume that the clinical process is different.
Yeah, it is a little different, and it really depends. So our product, the cancer vaccine, is regulated by the USDA, actually. So the USDA regulates animal vaccines and any immunotherapies. So it has a completely different regulatory structure than your traditional like FDA product, even on the veterinary side.
Wow, I had no idea. Okay, very cool. So you have this amazing idea and you guys are doing, and I think that that's, the way that the idea behind it, personalized cancer vaccines, that is groundbreaking. I mean, that's just amazing because everybody's body responds differently. So, I had my ex-husband was diagnosed with cancer, and he was diagnosed with a fairly common version, or a common, it was a Hodgkin's lymphoma. And they're like, oh, 6 months, it'll be done. It's no big deal. But his body didn't respond to the cancer or to the chemotherapy at all. And so his body had just not responded to it. And he ended up having to go a completely different route and have a stem cell transplant. And so it was pretty intense. But when you think about personalized cancer vaccines, that just makes so much sense. Like, why haven't we always been doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like, when we think about cancer, it starts at the DNA level and it results in mutations. And those mutations that are on the surface of the cell are really like the fingerprint of what went wrong. But cancer finds a way to block the immune system from doing its job. So the goal of a cancer vaccine is to now be able to take that fingerprint and now showcase it to the immune system so that the immune system is able to overcome that senescence or that inability to do its job and finally be able to start breaking through. So when I think about cancer, like even, patients with the same exact diagnosis, like breast cancer, right? Their mutational proteins on the surface are going to be different. They can have some that are similar, but for the vast majority, they're going to be different because that mutation arises from a different pathway.
Interesting. Okay. So you get out of grad school and you've got this tremendous idea. How do you start building a team? And by the way, I think it's awesome that they also had you do business classes because that's not happening enough, right? Because we all have these great ideas and we're like, okay, I'm really good at the process, but how do I make it a business? So that's also awesome. But how do you then start turning it into building a team and creating a business around this idea?
Yeah, so my professor and I were the first two founding members. So
Yeah.
and still in at Notre Dame, we did the business plan competition. So we wrote an entire business plan. We were able to pitch
Wow.
it and be able to really see if we had something in order to get stood up. And going through that process, which is about a year-long process, we really realized, like, okay, we have a problem, we have a solution, we have a market, we have an
Yeah.
innovative technology, we have patents. So we then started the licensing process to license the technology to the company. We started being able to get everything nicely set up. Getting a startup company off the ground is no easy
Yeah,
feat.
I
And
know it.
so called up my roommate and I said, I'm moving back home. So my dad let me move back into my childhood room for a few years as
That's awesome.
we started a laboratory at the University of Connecticut in order for that to be close to my home, to eat ramen noodles if I need
Yeah.
to. I think there was a few years where my dad was a little nervous, like, what do you mean you didn't take a salary after going to grad school? I'm like, it's fine. It's all going to work
It's
out.
fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
um, so started the lab and then, started being able to take on our first investment dollars. So the first investment dollars were really to ensure that this product was safe to be given to dogs, cats, horses, as well as for us to get our preliminary efficacy signals to showcase that it was working like it did in all of our mouse models. So we were able to do that. And then the capital started to come in order for us to continue that commercialization process, as well as to continue adding on to the team. So it's been an amazing journey, but to go from, $0 and zero salary to raising over $16 million and having
Wow.
30 employees, it's just been a remarkable ride.
That's incredible. So how do you raise that first 16? I mean, well, 16, it probably wasn't all at once, right? You
Oh
probably
no.
did different rounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how scary was that going out and pitching to investors?
I think it's always scary, but
Yeah.
the more you do it and the further along you get, the easier that it is. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first million is the hardest
It
to raise,
is. Yeah.
and that's the biggest barrier.
Well, and I think there's also that idea that once somebody has invested, an investor looks at that as, okay, somebody else is in this with me, somebody else has betted them, somebody else has taken the risk, and then it snowballs, right? It becomes a little bit easier. But I'm curious about this just because I've heard stories from other women who have tried to raise money. When you go in to pitch an investor, is your professor female or male?
Male.
Okay, so did he do most of the talking, or like was he like the front man, or were you?
I was the front woman.
Wow, I
Yeah.
love that. That is
Yeah.
amazing because that's what I've heard from women is that they have a male partner and that the investors kind of gauge their interest on what the guy is saying versus what, and they kind of take a back seat when it comes to fundraising. And I'm like, well, that's
Mm.
unfortunate because we're super crazy bright. So, I feel like women are more engaging when they talk. And there's also, an element of charisma and, it's just the confidence sometimes that we lack. And so that confidence can deter us from wanting to do it.
Yeah, I think, initially I was very nervous and would
Yeah.
maybe like, I had multiple people say you can't be CEO of this company initially.
What?
And yeah, and I believed them for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm, going from straight out of being a student into,
Yeah.
having this really great business that I know I can get upstood. But when you have potential investors say, yeah, I would invest in this if you had an experienced leader come along, because that experienced leader is going to take this to the next level. Initially you start believing that. And
Yeah.
we went out, we interviewed, we brought someone on, and then realized it wasn't going to work because they didn't
Yeah.
have that passion in order to do it. And when you're a startup company with $0, the only people who are able to take a salary cut of zero is
Yeah.
a retired,
Yeah.
person, someone who's come out of retirement or who has already made, their capital. And
Mm-hmm.
they, want to travel and do other things. And that's not what's going to be best for this business. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, we really said, I'm going to be the one in order to lead this company up to the next level. And then by getting that confidence in myself, then I was able to really start attracting the right investors into the business.
That's fantastic. I love that so much. And I think that that's going to really resonate with people because, that's where it comes down to. We always feel like we're told constantly, well, if you just had somebody who was more qualified, more experienced, more this, more that, but they don't live and breathe what we live and breathe. When we are passionate about what we do and we have this, drive to want to change things and to want to see things improve, nobody else is going to live that with us. And so, I mean, many, many sleepless nights I've had, nobody else would have, when it comes to my business. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. CEO that's getting a salary is not going to spend, work until 2 a.m. every single night just to get things done because it needs to get done, right?
Yep.
Like I will, because at the end of the day, it's my passion that drives me, not a salary.
Couldn't agree with that more.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so then you have this money and you're building out this team. How do you build out an effective team to go out there and tackle this massive issue of cancer in our furry friends? Because cancer is like you said, 25% of all dogs. That's crazy. I had no idea.
I think it really started from building from network effect, right? So with zero money, we had to go out and really build our network within the animal health industry, within, the
Yeah.
animal health pharma groups and veterinarians. So that network really allowed me to form mentorship opportunities. And then it became, when I'm hiring my team, that I actually have money in order to do that, who's the smartest person that I can bring
Mm-hmm.
on that could still mentor me, but be a team member, that we lead this together.
Mm.
So that's how I started building. So, started to, like, kind of like our first like major hire, like hired a PhD immunologist, hired our chief medical officer, a veterinary oncologist. Then through his network, we hired our head of market development. Through their network, we added on the team. So
Yeah.
it kind of really became more of a network effect to what
Mm.
are we building here? And then individuals being interested in order to be like, this is pretty cool. Wait, you just attracted this person to come over to your,
Right.
what are
Yeah.
you doing? And I think that not only helped build like this really cool culture where we're like, yeah, we're doing some really cool stuff here. It also helped us, attract additional talent that were like, oh, this is pretty cool. And
Mm-hmm.
in the veterinary world, veterinarians are getting pretty burnt out, especially during COVID.
Yeah.
We had to be extremely creative as we were hiring, at the different rounds with what capital we had. And,
Mm-hmm.
I think that really allowed us to bring on veterinarians, bring on the animal health professionals who wanted to do something different and make a change.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, I love that so much. So I agree with you. I think one of the smartest things you can do as an entrepreneur is hire people smarter than you. Like I never understand those leaders who hire people just to have a bunch of minions, right? Like that's ridiculous. Like that. Why would you want to do that? But yeah, you hire people who are smarter than you that you can then learn from, and then, who can guide you and take your company to the next level. Because, my capacity is what I know, and I don't know that much, right? Like when you look at the whole scope of, the industry, and I'm in the security industry, and I didn't come from the security industry, I came from the events industry. And so like when I'm looking at the security industry, I'm like, wow, there's so much that I don't know. Like I know how to run this business, I know hospitality, but I don't know all these particulars about security. So I hire really smart people who know that part of the business. And then they can train me, they can educate me, they can take initiative, and they can, so I think going out there and finding people in the community that you can then lean on and say, teach me, show me, let's do this together. Let's be part of a team. Let's make a difference in the world. I think that that's brilliant.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of businesses, regardless if it's hospitality, security, or veterinary
Mm-hmm.
biotechnology, we all have the same problems and issues. How are you going
Mm-hmm.
to grow? How do you get the capital? What do you do in order to get to cash flow positive? Being able
Mm-hmm.
to really get to that next level is checking off those boxes and surrounding yourself with the right people in order for you to get to that next step.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because leaders who want to have people that they can control, they're never going to grow. They're never going to get bigger than what they can provide. And I just think that yeah, I think hiring people who are smart and who can lead the way, that's definitely the way to go. So, so as a woman in biotech, what kind of challenges do you think you have faced that might be different? So in biotech is a competitive field, I imagine.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty cutthroat out there. You're dealing with some monster companies. So how do you compete?
I think that's definitely something that I'm still trying to figure out because
Yeah.
it depends, right? You know, one, I'm in the veterinary space. So some investors are like, oh, that's she's helping dogs with cancer.
Oh.
Oh, it's so cute, great job. And it's like, no, it's not cute. It's pretty badass. Like
Yeah.
we have this technology that was going to go to humans. And now look at what we're doing. We've treated thousands of animals with
That's
cancer
amazing.
and we have amazing feedback from owners and veterinarians. So it's like, no, we're really doing something here in order to make that move. But I think the challenge that we're in right now is that a for venture capital specifically, a lot of the biotech funds are we don't invest in veterinary or we don't invest in animal health. And then a lot of the consumer funds are we don't invest in biotech. So I kind of sit in
Hmm.
this interesting like no man's land of niche where there's only very few funding opportunities that are
Wow.
available and very few funders. So that's kind of been the challenge is being able to navigate that and then convince the biotech funds as to why animal health makes a lot of sense and
Yeah.
then to convince the consumer funds that like yeah but it's still a consumer play because our product is b2b2c, we sell to veterinarians who sell to consumers, so it's
Hmm.
being able to build that. So it has been interesting to navigate.
Absolutely. And you can probably hear my dogs barking in the background right
Oh,
now. So that so I was telling you right before we joined the call that I actually had a dog that just recently passed away, and it's her son that's barking right now. But I mean, she's just such a good girl, but I feel like many of us will agree that we enjoy spending time with our dogs more than humans sometimes.
yep.
So so I think that people are investing a lot of money in their animals, and it's a space that you want to be in. I mean, there's so much money to be made, not just the money part, but the quality of life, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that I want more than for my dog to be happy and comfortable, right? Because he is my baby.
Yep.
And so, people spend a lot of time and a lot of money to make sure that their animals are well taken care of. And so I think it's a brilliant space, but that's me.
I do too.
Yeah. So, so so tell me a little bit more about when you're getting into is biotech what you always wanted to be in? Did you know that from a young age?
I loved science. So I
Yeah.
always knew that, science was my passion. But I knew that I didn't want to be at a lab bench. And that was kind of what defined, instead of going into like more of a traditional like PhD program, I decided to say, okay, can I do a master's program that also added in business classes in order to make me a little bit more well-rounded? And that's kind of where I landed at my program. And I would say it made me very well-rounded.
Yeah, I love that so much. So I had a kind of a different experience when I was in college. Sorry, I'm having some sinus issues today. So when I was in college, I actually went to study criminal psychology. Like I just knew I was going to go in the FBI. I studied criminology, sociology, anthropology. I wanted to understand people, and that's it. And so if you would have put a math problem in front of me, I would have run. Like I don't put math or science or any of that stuff near me. But like I loved people. And so it wasn't until my senior year after I did my internship in the space that I wanted to work in that I realized I don't think I'm going to work in the space, right? And so then I kind of went into a panic moment, and then I hurried up and took as many business classes as I could because I just wanted to have knowledge that was outside of the very narrow focus that I spent my entire college career on at that point. So, but it wasn't until then that I really took any business classes. So I encourage everybody, I don't care what your major is, take business classes, because even if you don't go into business for yourself, it's financial management, it's understanding marketing, it's understanding people, it's understanding dynamics in business, and that can always, always, always help you.
Yeah. And I think, like what you said, you're running away from the math problem.
Yeah.
I think that individuals that don't have exposure to accounting, to a P&L or a balance sheet are going to run away from that.
Yeah.
But anyone can learn that. Anyone can learn how to use QuickBooks and be able to put together a financial forecast and model, or how much am I spending? And at what point do I start making a profit based on what I spend? Like,
exactly.
like very, simple principles, but some people, I don't need to deal with that. That's not my job. And it's like, no, we can all learn it, and we can advance careers by being able to bring to your boss what we're spending and how we can reduce costs by 20% and increase efficiencies.
I mean, even if your job is sales, or, understanding marketing principles, so key to success in any role that you're in, because every role that you're in, you are marketing, even if it's just to market for yourself to advance to the next level, right? So it's just understanding the principles of marketing and understanding how people think and what makes people buy and, influence and everything else. So all these things are just so key to anything that you do. So I strongly encourage everybody to just take a couple business classes and understand exactly what it is because life is based on that.
Yep. Completely agree.
So kind of circling back to Torigen. So how does your therapy work?
Yeah. So what happens is, after, let's say an animal goes into their veterinary clinic with a lump or bump. So the first step is trying to figure out exactly what it is. And most times the doctors don't know. So they proceed forward with a surgery in order to remove as much of it as they can. And once that surgery happens, we work with veterinary clinics and we say, send that tumor into Torigen, because as long as the tumor comes to us, what we can then do is save back portions of the cells in order to keep those nice and safe while we wait for the diagnosis. So then once we get the diagnosis, if we understand that it is cancer and it has a likelihood for recurrence and maybe even metastasis, now we can move forward with the creation of the personalized therapy. So the personalized vaccine, we're going to take those tumor cells and we're going to use those as the backbone, where we're taking those cells, we're killing everything, but we're preserving the proteins, the mutations on the surface, and we're taking those mutational proteins and combining it in a way that can help stimulate the immune system when it's being provided back. So it's a really great way of, let's take what went wrong, let's reformulate that, let's take those cell surface proteins in order to help stimulate an immune response when it's given back as a series of injections. So those series of injections are provided back to the veterinarian with the goal of, can we prevent that localized recurrence or delay that distal metastasis?
Interesting. So it's not, so the chemotherapy, is it chemotherapy then or no?
Immunotherapy.
Immunotherapy. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. So immunotherapy is different than chemotherapy because chemotherapy goes in and kills the cells and immunotherapy stimulates the immune system. Is that the difference? And I'm totally making this up and
Yeah.
you can tell me
No,
that I have no
yeah.
idea what I'm
So
talking
yeah,
about.
chemotherapy is going to be a cytotoxic drug. So you're
Okay.
providing a drug in order to kill a cell.
Yeah.
And then immunotherapy is stimulating the immune system in order to fight the cancer that it should fight. So
Mm.
within all of us right now, we have a cell that can become cancerous.
Yeah.
So if that cell does not kill itself, so it completely can self-degrade and collapse on itself. If that doesn't happen, the next step is our immune system should be there in order to say, hey, the cell doesn't look like normal. It doesn't look like ourself. We need to mark it for destruction and get it out of here. So the immune system should be the next step in line. Well, cancer and tumors occur because the cancer has found ways to evolve itself to block the immune system from actually doing that job in order to formulate a response and in order to kill it.
Wow.
So the goal of therapy is to reverse that process and be able to now finally have the immune system be armed and dangerous in order to do its job.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's just science is something that, when you're thinking about this and you're like you're watching cells and you're understanding how immune systems work, like to me it's just so foreign because, I have a very different pathway in my career, but I am fascinated by it. I think it's just so interesting and being able to go in and study this and then know that you can just literally change lives by what you're putting out there that's amazing. So kudos to you. I think that's fantastic. So when you're out there and you're pitching investors and you're what is next step? I mean, like you're pitching investors as the next step to bring it to a national stage. Are you like, is this something that you have national approval for? You can distribute this anywhere you want within the US, or what's the next step for you?
Yeah. So our next step, so we are able to sell the product. It's currently an experimental label because every cancer is completely different. So we are able to sell the product. We sell it from Maine all the way to Hawaii.
Nice.
Consumer samples come into our lab based here in Connecticut. We get, dozens a day, which is great. And they come in, we save a portion. And if they want to move forward with the therapy, we can create that vaccine and send it back to the veterinary clinic. So our next stage, like we have one more test that's currently ongoing, one more clinical study for us to get the final stamp of approval. We also have other therapies in development that are immunotherapies, and then not for cancer. So for other autoimmune based diseases like dry eye disease, IBD, and atopic dermatitis or itchy dogs. So these are all for animals. And for us, it's being able to really showcase to the veterinary community the power of our immune system and how we can really take that power and use it for good.
Oh God, that's amazing. Okay, so this is so exciting. And there's so many cool things that are happening. So you won Forbes 30 under 30. So you're on that list. How did that impact your career and what you're doing?
I think that was like the moment where like it kind of set in where it's like,
Yeah.
that's so freaking cool.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like to be
I mean, 30
really
people.
proud.
Do you know how many probably millions of people they had to choose from? That's incredible. I mean, unbelievable. I love it. I love that.
And I got it for 2020, which as we know was a great year. So I think, getting that recognition, but then the world shutting down shortly after. I think that was probably one of the hardest times of my life because we were raising capital during that point, and like I was going to close around at the end of March 2020.
Oh my
And
gosh.
in the middle of March is when I had every single investor call me in order to pull back their capital commitments.
Oh,
and
God.
at that point, I thought the company was done. I had just hired, like we just added to our team, 50% more people in February 2020.
Oh
And I'm
my
thinking
gosh.
like, I'm going to have to let go of all these people left cushion jobs at major animal health pharma companies or other careers. I convinced them to join a startup company, and because I knew the capital was coming, and now the world shut down. Like,
Yeah. Oh my
dude,
gosh.
so if it wasn't for like the PPP loan, like payroll protection,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have had payroll.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that simple. So
Mm-hmm.
by June of 2020, one, I had payroll. So
Yeah.
everyone got paid. That was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you for the program. But I
Mm-hmm.
also, the veterinary market became really, really busy. People were
Mm.
home with their pets for the first time in years, maybe, and they were realizing that, hey, my dog's not doing so well, or there's this
Yeah.
lump or bump that I'm noticing, and I'm going to bring that in order for us to get it checked out. So while every other industry was going down, the veterinary market was becoming exponentially busier and busier, and our
Wow.
product was starting to really start to take off.
Wow.
So by June, I was able to showcase this really strong growth, and everyone was like, wait, the veterinary market's one place where things are actually booming right now. And I was
Yeah.
able to close the capital. So
Oh my
that
God.
was like a blessing and
Right.
disguise.
Yeah, yeah. It's always the worst and the best at the same time. We've had those years or months, days, literally. This hour is the best and the worst hour ever. But yeah, so as an entrepreneur, I mean, you get used to those, like everything is very high, very low, very high, very low. And there's no like, yep, today's just like Groundhog Day. No, there's no Groundhog Day.
I wish.
So yeah, we every day I feel like is some kind of roller coaster. But yeah, I can agree with you with 2022. We had just come off of the first, the best year ever. We were poised for all this growth, and within a matter of 48 hours, I think March 13th is kind of burned into my head. Within 48 hours, we lost all foreseeable revenue, and yeah, it was crazy. I think we lost like $350,000 in 2 days, and nothing on the horizon. That was just what was canceled. So yeah, it was scary. And then we came out of it, and um we were able to use that time to restructure, refocus, and build a more solid foundation to prevent anything like that from being able to derail us again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy what these times do to you, because it forces that narrow focus to become even more narrow, and to
Yep.
like you're so now tunnel vision on like this success and driving forward.
Survival, right? Like it's
Mhm.
the survival of the business. And I think there's sometimes that addition by subtraction,
Yep.
right? You're taking away all of the distractions, and now you're
Yeah,
saying this is our one thing we have to do right now. And that can lead to
absolutely.
that growth.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, I could feel your pain on that one because I have been through it also. So
It's so long ago, but
I
it's so
know.
dramatic. It's still
feels
there.
feels like I still have the trauma.
Yeah.
So
It feels like yesterday.
yes. So I mean, you have such a great pathway. I'm so excited for you, and I just so appreciate what you're doing, because like I said, my little furry friends are my bestest friends. I love them so much. So there's a comedian, this is totally off topic, but there's a comedian who talks about John Wick. Have you seen this guy on like TikTok?
No.
Oh my God, it's the most hysterical. People have to look this up. So there's a comedian who's talking about John Wick, and he says, the beginning of it was, when I first saw John Wick, I really enjoyed the movie, but I just thought to myself, this is the most unrealistic premise for a movie, because, he somebody shoots his dog, and then he goes on his killing rampage where he kills somewhere in the range of like 18,000 people until he finds out who killed his dog. And he was like, and I just thought to myself, that's the most unrealistic storyline ever for a movie. And he was like, and then I got a dog, and it is the most realistic storyline I've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
He was like, if anyone anyone so much as hurts my dog, I will kill them. And so it's funny because it's so true. I mean, we're so attached to our animals, and but I think what you're doing is just outstanding. So congratulations on all your success. I hope that you just continue to do more and more and more in that space and continue to change our animals' lives. So, because ultimately it changes our lives. So
Exactly.
So what obstacles have you ever had to overcome on your journey?
I think definitely the funding obstacles, definitely the COVID obstacles. I think every day there's a new obstacle that comes up. It is assembling your parachute on the way down and making sure that you're able to navigate it to a soft landing every day. Some days you're not, but figuring that out. I think that with small business, every chapter has its different obstacles associated with it, whether it was me not believing in myself or investors not believing in me, and then all the way through to, growing a team of employees. Now I have management pieces. I have management issues that, are obstacles that you got to figure out. And that's all good stuff. It's part of the journey.
Yeah. I mean, like, as you grow, you think to yourself, okay, how am I going to get through this one? Then you get through it and you're like, okay, well, that was good.
Easy.
Like I learned something and I got through it. So, so who inspires you?
Who inspires me? I mean, I think, I look to the industry a lot, like for our animal health industry. So Zoetis, which is Pfizer's animal health company, they're, fully independent, but their CEO, Kristen Peck, is just a powerhouse. So woman leader, also blonde,
awesome.
and really just revolutionized Zoetis's outlook for animal health, where, pets are truly parts of our family. So being able to really figure out the diseases and how we're going to solve them for the next 10 years, I think she's an inspiration to me. And I think that being able to really define the next generation of therapeutics is going to be, starts now.
Absolutely. That's very cool. Yeah, I look to women leaders as well. I think that there's so many female leaders out there who are just doing amazing work, and I look to them as an inspiration to me as well, because there's not many of us. So it's changing, but yeah, so that's amazing. So as women, we often give our power away, whether that's, taking criticism or letting people tell us what the expectation of us is, and then, believing them, or whatever that is. And you shared a couple stories earlier, but can you tell me about a time that you gave your power away, and then maybe another time that you stepped into that power?
Ooh, yeah. I think definitely the you can't be CEO is probably my biggest giving the power away. And like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then coming back and being like, no, I am the best one in order to do that. But, I think that giving your power away, like, especially in regards to investor pitches and conversations too, being that person that's able to define the strategy and be able to pinpoint down to, here are the 3 things that we're going to do. Here's how much those 3 things are going to cost. And once I'm able to do that, here is the value inflection point. I think if you give that away to someone else on your team, it dilutes your presence as the leader leading the next stage. So yeah, I would say there's definitely been times in investor pitches or conversations that I would hand it over to someone. And now I'm like, no, actually, I'm just going to handle this one by myself. And once we get into due diligence, you can meet the rest of my team because they're truly amazing. But I think you need to be sold on myself as the leader before I add in the rest of my teammates.
That's so true. So have you read the book, The 21 Immutable Laws of Leadership?
No, but I'm reading that.
Yeah, I literally just sent it to every executive in my team. So we have 6 general managers, and I sent it to all of them as an assigned reading for this week because it's so good. One of the laws of leadership is Sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. But anyway, so when you're talking about, these investors and them buying into you, that's one of the laws of leadership is investors invest in you. And then once they believe in you, you can come up with any idea you want. They're going to believe it because of you, right? Like they've bought into you as a person and as a leader. And if they can buy into you as a leader, they're going to have confidence in anything that you take on. So they always say that once somebody has raised their first round of investment, the investors then have bought into you. So you can come to them with another company, another idea, another growth strategy, and they're going to believe you because they've bought into you as the leader, right? And so that's one of the immutable laws of leadership is, you're selling you, you're not selling your company necessarily, right? They have to believe you. So anyway, definitely check that book out. It's a really, really good.
Love it. Thank you.
Finished it this morning. So what advice would you give to 18-year-old you?
Ooh, 18-year-old Ashley. 18-year-old Ashley was saying, I'm going to go to medical school and I'm going to be a doctor, right?
Really?
Yeah. And I think, it was really college that, once I got into it and seeing, all right, like everybody's being hyper competitive for this biology test or this organic chemistry test. And I'm like, pretty competitive of a person, but I don't know if that's really what I want to do. And then by junior year, when everyone was studying for the MCATs, I was like, oh, yeah, no, don't want to do that either.
Really?
So I think 18-year-old Ashley was pretty maybe disillusioned with this is exactly what I'm doing and this is my path. And once I was able to really step into what I liked doing, which was virus and vaccine research, then I was able to find more of my passion. And, it was a different route that I took, but I think it's the most fun route.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I agree with you. I was so determined on my plans at 18 years old. I just knew exactly how my life was going to play out.
Yep.
I could not have been more wrong.
Yep.
But and I'm glad I was wrong. I'm so glad I was wrong. But yeah, you have this determination, and I just give yourself some grace and let yourself do what you
my little right. Little sister, she's 18, and so she's right. She turns 18 in 12 days, and she's on musical theater. Right, she is going to go to music, and she is the most talented person I've ever seen. Singing, awesome. Dancing, acting, fantastic. But all of us have that thought and that like this is exactly what we're going to do. Yep. And I wonder, it's probably the 1% of people actually go forward with that, and the 99% find something else that you're passionate about in order to potentially have that other option, or that path is going to open itself up for you. And you just have to be willing in order to let yourself go down that path too.
Yes, absolutely. So I've really enjoyed this, Ashley. You are such an inspiration. I'm so excited for you, and I'm so excited for what you're doing. And I wish you just Godspeed to just keep going and to really change the lives of so many of our furry friends, because they are our best friends, and they keep me sane. So my boys, I talk to them more than I talk to anybody. So they know all my secrets. But anyway, so what do you wish more people knew?
Ooh, what do I wish more people knew? I think, spreading the word about cancer in our animals, and being able to really showcase that there are more options out there after a diagnosis. And Torigen is definitely one of those options that could be considered. I think that's something I wish more people would know. And I think being able to really showcase that there's a whole world that is developing the best therapies for our animals to have them live longer, healthier, happier lives. And that part's really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you again, Ashley. I love what you're doing, and I hope that you just continue to just succeed in every aspect of what you're doing. So Ashley Kalinauskas, did I say that right again? Gosh,
yes,
it's a tough last name. So how can people find you?
Yeah, find me. So Torigen.com, Torigen.com is probably the easiest, because spelling my last name on LinkedIn is definitely harder. But If anyone's interested in sending me an email, Ashley, ASHLEY at Torigen.com, and would be happy to, connect and be able to learn more about what you're building.
Awesome. Well, and you can also find Ashley on prettypowerfulpodcast.com, and we'll make sure all of her links are on there as well. So thank you again, Ashley. And I just wish you tremendous success. You are just such an inspiration, and I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, have a great rest of your day.
All right, everybody, have an amazing day, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining our guests on the Pretty Powerful Podcast. And we hope you've gained new insight and learned from exceptional women. Remember to subscribe or check out this and all episodes on prettypowerfulpodcast.com. Visit us next time, and until then, step into your own power.